Hello, everyone. This is the Tartan Talk. I am Riley, and I am joined with two other fellow seniors.
I'm Nyla.
And I'm Alex.
And today we're just going to talk a little bit about spirituality in a broad sense and a micro way. So, I guess I'll start with a broader question about how do you define spirituality and what does that look like in your life, or even something so small?
Spirituality. Well, this is a hard question because there's so many different ways to interpret this. But spirituality to me is a greater belief in something bigger than yourself. It is an understanding of the world in a way that allows you to understand yourself better. So for me, I am Catholic, so that's how my spirituality manifests itself in my life. But again, it's this belief in something greater than myself. For me, that also manifests with service and building community, which is a big part of Sacred Heart. But that's kind of how I view spirituality.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, kind of like a belief in a higher power or something that's like helps you guide your life. To me, I can look up to this thing. And to me, I'm Presbyterian or Christian, so for me, it's God. But something that I can go to for comfort, for love, for guidance, for anything that I need, that I'm like having trouble with or I'm just happy with, I can go and talk to God for me. And that helps me like guide my life and be really supportive in my life.
I think that it's really important to have that type of, I want to say, leadership in life. That could mean loosely, but it gives a sense of stability with yourself and like the things that you have around in your life, and having some spirituality, whether that be, well, all levels of spirituality are valid. So whether that be like directly belonging to one monotheistic religion or whatever religion, or not identifying with a religion, I think those are all valid. But it's really important to be in tune with yourself and the world around you, because I think that's important for our mental health, especially as teenagers with everything that's going on around us. And it's important to like slow down in a world where everything is so fast paced. So for that to lead into my next question on how you navigate your faith as a teen, and I guess more specifically, where do faith and mental health align, and where do you find yourself not extra faithful, but really leaning into your faith, whether that be in a positive way or a negative way?
Yeah, I really love this discussion because I think I've been exploring this more in high school, especially with becoming friends with Sister Nancy Kehoe, where this is kind of her specialty with the connection between mental health and spirituality. And I think it is so important in teens because, as we've described earlier about spirituality, how we use that as a pillar in our lives and a sense of stability in our lives, and how I use my faith to be something I can come back to. It's another home for me. So in moments of difficulty, whether that's in my personal life or with schoolwork, there's so many stressors that come with being a teen. And especially, as you said, Riley, the world that we live in today is so uniquely difficult. And so as teenagers, we're working to navigate that and using faith and spirituality in a broader sense to be able to find that home within yourself is so helpful. So having that thing to come back to have God to come back to bring you comfort, to bring you peace, to have someone to vent to when things are difficult, I think is so valuable for teenagers.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree too. Because when I came to God like mostly like saying that God was my savior in 8th grade. But I was like scared into it. Like I was like that fear factor when they try to scare you into like religion, which isn't really the best option. And that happens to a lot of people. Like I grew up in a church that was super, super welcoming, but when I was younger, I didn't want to go to church. I was like, I don't know why you're dragging me here. It was just something I had to go to that I didn't want to go to, and I felt like a chore. And then during COVID years, like there was so much on social media saying the world's gonna end, like Jesus is coming back, like get saved before you go to hell. And it was just like, well, I got so scared. And like I think I came to God because I was scared, but then eventually as I like actually started going to church and listening to my pastor and listening to my mom talk about her faith helped me to be, like, to see that God is like a loving being. Like, he's not something you should be scared of. Like, if you came out of fear, then that was not of God, because God is love and like God is comfort. So after that, I started to like read the Bible more, and I think reading the Bible also helped me to be comforted and like supported when I felt my mental health was bad, or I felt like I was depressed or sad. Like, reading the Bible and talking to God definitely helped with that. So I think, like, as a teen, like, going back to those little things, or prayer, just talking to him, like, all the time just helps you to, like, kind of navigate your life. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you might not hear him, or you might not think you hear him. And you think that, like, what if I'm doing, like, something wrong, or just something that's, like, not always positive. But going back to him and maybe talking to others also helps, like, being in community with other people that also share your faith. Like, having friends like Alex that also share your faith really help with that, so you can go to them and talk to them as well.
Yeah, especially at the end when you said sharing your faith with Alex. I think community is such an important, integral part of faith. And also, coming from someone who doesn't identify with one specific religion, I would call myself a spiritual person, which I don't like saying that because it's kind of so broad. But for me, spirituality could be something as little as taking a deep breath during the day, or telling someone I love them, or writing something down that I'm grateful for, or journaling, doing yoga, meditation. And I'm open about this, but I really did struggle with depression my freshman and sophomore year. And getting active was like a really hard thing for me. And then I started yoga and incorporating breath work and mindfulness and journaling and meditation, and it was transformative. And that also translates into following God, and I feel like it's a very similar sense of spirituality. And with teenagers, I feel like the biggest thing is we're unaware, and there's a lot of misinformation everywhere, especially with social media, and I'm going to use the word propaganda because that's what it is. And I feel like what you said, we're scared. There's teens that are scared, or scared of following spirituality because it can mean one thing, or negative connotations with being Catholic or religious because of people that misrepresent it. So I feel like teens just don't know where to start. Like, they don't know where to start with religion or spirituality, and I think that's an issue. And I wish there was a better way to get that out more. Like, it's not something specific that you have to do. You don't have to do this, and it's not a B C D thing. It's your own journey. Like, Nyla, how you were talking about your journey with God, it is your own specific journey. You could take 10 years and then find God, or find yourself. But I really do think it all comes from your soul.
I was also taught that, like, God is in each one of us, that, like, he created us, and a bit of him is in all of us, and we have like his energies inside of us.
And I think over the years now, I think we've lost the idea that faith is a journey. It is, as Riley is saying, it is not XYZ. It does not manifest itself. It does not exist in a specific way for every single person. Everything in our lives is a spectrum. The way that individuals and people learn, we know that one specific classroom setting isn't going to apply to every single individual's brain. So why does that stop at faith and spirituality and religion? I think that's why so many different humans practice so many different faiths and levels of spirituality. It's how we understand. For me, it's how we understand God in different ways, but that can mean something different for someone else. But I think highlighting how faith is a journey, that you can find God and you can lose God afterward, and you can find him again. And I think getting rid of that stigma of being in different places in your journey in faith is so important, especially for teens. As teenagers, a lot of people, how they identify their faith is based off of what they grew up learning, what their parents have told them or guardians have told them what faith is. And I think what is so important for teenagers as we are in this journey of finding ourselves is being open to the discovery of faith and what that means for you personally. Because in faith, community is so important, but you cannot form a community if you are not finding yourself first and knowing what you offer to a community. So that aspect of faith in building your journey and discovering who you are, how you see God, how you see anything higher than you, how you become a better person for the world that you live in is so important.
You're so with the teens and spirituality and them following the religion that they grew up with, or some parental pressure of following the religion that they identify with is also a really common thing. Or people feeling scared to branch out or try new things or different ideas. And throughout time, especially with modern technology, we've lost communal spaces. And growing up, I didn't go to church often, but we went to mass as Stuart students, and church and going to things with your family. That was a big deal growing up, especially when we were growing up. And now more than ever, we've especially after COVID, I think that was a big factor, but we've really lost a lot of our communal spaces, whether that be just a public area to be or practice your faith. And Stuart really is that place for us, and I think I can speak on that for all three of us, since all of us have been here since we were 5. We've kind of had the community from the get-go, and other teens don't have that luxury. Just, it's such a special place to have that community. I think it's really, really important. It does come from yourself, but with faith, it's a solo journey, but I do feel like you need your people. You need people around you. You need that to build off of and strengthen each other's faith through, being friends or just your shared practice.
Yeah, definitely. I think also, when I'm confused and I have a question or I don't know what to do, I ask my pastor, because I know she's been through more and I know she knows more. And I think what you're talking about after COVID, we had Zoom on church on Zoom, and then after we started going in person more, but they still had that Zoom feature. So if you're sick or you're away, you can still attend church, which is really, really helpful. But also being at Stuart and having mass since we were 5, it's been really a place I could go to relax my mind, have a break.
I used to hate it.
I know.
I love it now.
I used to sleep.
I know.
I was so
I
young,
know.
and I slept through.
You would nod off.
Yeah, but as I got older and I started to participate more, I'm an usher now. I'm part of campus ministry. It's a place where I can calm my mind and sing along to the songs, because I know them. I've memorized them since being here for 13 years. But mass to me isn't, I know for other people mass outside of school, it's long and it's a different space, but I think being at Stuart with all of our sisters, and I love Monsignor Greg, and just his sermons are amazing. Yeah. So it's a little bit different to me than I think if I were to go to a mass outside of school.
Yeah. What I love about Stuart is, yes, we are a Catholic institution, but us being Sacred Heart means something so much greater. And I think especially at Stuart, we are so diverse in every meaning of the word, and I will say that every day. I think when it comes to religion, for this discussion specifically, we have so many different faiths represented here at Stuart, and that shows in our mass. And I think the way that Monsignor structures his sermons is so relatable to all people of different faiths and levels of faith. And I think that at Stuart, I love being able to engage in conversation with people of different faith and of similar faith. And I think getting those different perspectives has really helped me in my journey, and in pulling pieces from different faiths that I think I identify with. I don't limit myself to just strict ideals of Catholicism. I like finding that broader sense of God and seeing how other people see God, and whatever feels right for me, I kind of take with me throughout the day, and I reflect on that.
I was just going to talk about how with Stuart, and this sounds like we're trying to plug Stuart and Stuart, but we really do. We could talk about Stuart forever because we love Stuart. And yeah, I hated mass growing up. Oh my goodness. I hate to say that word, but I really did not like it. And then as we grew up, I actually started to listen to what Monsignor Greg had to say. And as I'm not Catholic, but I can fully take away at least one thing after every time I leave mass. And going back to being a teenager, we don't have time. We never have time, ever. So especially recently, it's our senior year. We're college applications, even though all 3 of us are done. Congratulations to us. We don't have time. So how do you find time in your day to practice mindfulness, or do you have times where you just can't?
I like 100% agree. This is like probably one of my main problems and like my main struggles in my faith right now is finding time to spend with God. Like, I know I said reading the Bible is really helpful, but it's like so hard to find time when I have so much work to do, to read the Bible and to spend time with him. Like, I'm trying to figure out how I can make a schedule, like on the weekends, like at least once a week, because I just need that time, and not having it makes me feel like my life is falling apart sometimes. But then also, like, prayer is also really helpful, like just talking to him and praying to him, like anywhere, anytime will help you to grow. And like struggling with like time is definitely a big thing right now, especially when you see people on social media like are always devoted, they're always doing something, like they're always talking to God, making videos about God, and just like, what do you, like, is this all you do? Like, how do you have time to do this all the time? Because I don't. And I'm like, yeah, like they have different life than me, but like they must be doing something better because they are doing this more than I am. And you feel like, oh, if I'm not doing XYZ or reading the Bible like 5 times a week, then I'm just not doing it right. Like, you feel like guilt, and it doesn't really help. Like, it just kind of lessens like your strength of faith, and like you feel like you're disappointing God. But I think trying to find time to just talk to him, do a daily devotional, reading a verse, or doing the morning devotion. There's an app called D365 that my mom recently introduced me to.
She hooked me on it.
Yeah, it's actually really, really nice because it's like
Cherry.
5 things. It's like think, listen, pray, reflect. I don't remember, but it's really, really quick, and it's just something you can open up and do, and it doesn't take that long, and you just have like a time where you can just like reflect and pray. Find those little nooks, like those apps or whatever. Just do
Nooks.
Something helps.
That's a good word.
Helps a
Little
lot.
nooks.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm still like trying to work on time management, but something like that helps me.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I think that's also something I've been struggling with in high school, especially. I think, as you said earlier, you kind of came into your faith in 8th grade. I had the same experience. I kind of found God for myself the most in 8th grade. And I've kind of lost parts of that just because I dedicated more time in 8th grade to growing my relationship with God. And I would have time to pray every night and before I go to bed. But now I get in bed, I fall asleep doing homework, or my head hits the pillow and I'm immediately asleep.
Exactly.
So it's also important to get rid of the idea that there is one right way to practice faith, to be spiritual. I think and social media 100% plays a part in this, and I think we should talk about that, but there's no one way to do it. And I think the best thing you can do for yourself when you don't have a lot of time is having moments in your day. I think Stuart has done a great job in instilling this idea of being reflective, and especially growing up at Stuart, exactly, espacio. And we do, even in classes, we do a lot of reflective writing and things like that. So being able to take a moment and see God in your day-to-day life. When someone holds a door for you, you're seeing God. When there is a rainbow, you're seeing God.
That's practicing your
faith.
faith.
There's rain, you're seeing God. Just see God in parts of your day. Have that moment of reflection. And I think that kind of helps you stay grounded, so when you do have time to solely dedicate 100% of your attention to whatever you do to practice your faith, I think it makes it more meaningful. But even just in the car when I'm driving home, I'll turn the music low and just rant as if I was calling one of you guys on my phone, ranting about my day. Just like talk to God.
In the shower?
Yes. Just talk to God. And if for you, whatever level of spirituality you are, if you're not talking to God, just talk out loud.
I do that all the time.
Part of helping
You're not
your
crazy
mental
if you
health.
talk out loud.
Absolutely not.
Talk out loud.
That's a whole other stigma that we need to get. Like, let people talk.
I always talk to myself.
Yeah, talking out loud about what's on your mind, what you're excited about, what you're not excited about, what is troubling you, putting it into the universe, and just speaking out loud is so helpful.
Scientifically.
Exactly. Yeah. The art of speaking out loud. Just talk out loud into the universe. And if for you that is God, lovely. If it's not, lovely. It's still helpful.
Yeah. Also, I totally agree with you. Like just smiling and seeing nature. I just love nature so much. And I'm just like, and people, I smile so hard when I just like see people like happy. I'm just like,
Yeah.
like I just love people and I love nature. I'm just like, wow, God is so good. Like he made the universe so beautiful and people are so beautiful, and it just like my heart just like
Stop, you're gonna be...
is so happy. I'm just like, wow, I just love God and like what he created.
Yeah.
And also going back to like your 8th grade thing, like I used to say like I miss my 8th grade self because I
Right.
was so dedicated, and then the time thing.
Yeah.
But like now I'm just like, you know what? I can see God in everything.
Yeah.
That goes back to what I said in the beginning of all levels of spirituality are valid. Like,
Absolutely.
you don't have to, again, this is amazing if you do this, but you don't have to wake up and read pages from the Bible, or, you know, practicing your faith can look like holding the door for someone or doing things that God, or
Taking a deep breath.
yeah, doing things that God would want you to do, share your love with
Right.
people. And gosh, social media has really, really played a role into this. And I know we all love social media. Like, yes, it's so fun, but we hate it. I know we all hate
I
it.
get so like I feel guilt when like you skip those Jesus videos. Like
Yes.
you have a minute for God. I'm like,
I
like,
don't
see,
know if
like,
I
That
do.
is so awful.
Right.
like, and
That's
it's like,
why-
if you skip like you don't love God. What?
What?
I don't like who told you to say that? Like
Yeah.
I just feel like there's
And then
so much.
you have to watch it. You feel guilty, so then it keeps
Exactly.
showing up on your feed.
I know, like it's like messing up my algorithm, but like I just feel like there's so many and there's so many ways you could mess up in quotation marks. Like I just feel like there's like it's kind of trap. I kind of feel like suffocated, like I have to be like this like all the time 24/7.
Faith is not
it's
cookie
not.
cutter. Faith is not cookie cutter at all. And social media makes it seem that way.
Preach.
And I'm not like, again, I'm not on that side of the algorithm because I'm not religious, but I didn't even know there was videos like that. Like, that's really awful because it's like instilling fear in something that's supposed to be filled with love. And I wish there wasn't this perception of a way to act, to follow your faith, or to be fully spiritual, or to have your strength of religion be valid if you do one thing or not the other thing. Like, now that what you're saying, like, that is such a beautiful thing to truly see the beauty in the world. And it makes me sad that you're like, oh, I wish I was my 8th grade self, like the two of you saying that. Like, no, I love every version of you guys, and like every version, and it doesn't matter where you are in your faith journey because they're equally important. A more sensitive topic that I think where a lot of people either lose or find their faith in would be grief, and like the loss of a loved one or someone in your life. And I know all three of us have experienced significant losses, plural, in our lives, especially in the past couple of 2 or 3 years. And I know during that time, I didn't have any form of like spirituality or like sense of faith, or I lost it along the way, or found it. But what did that look like for you exactly?
Yeah. So this is a big part of my story in faith, and I think when we're talking about, with all of this, we talk about, oh, I miss my 8th grade self. Like, I miss a relationship I had with God, certain aspects of it in 8th grade. I don't miss my 8th grade self because for me, 8th grade was the hardest year of my life. I lost my grandmother very unexpectedly. And that was a really difficult point in my faith. I felt anger toward God. Why would he do something like this? But it is part of the process, and I think it is so important to validate that. I think so many people of faith feel guilty for having anger, and that is part of the grieving process. Whether you have God as a part of it or not, scientifically, that is part of the grief process, is anger. And I think, yes, I was really close with God that year, but I also had a difficult and rough relationship with God for a time during that year. And I think once I found and reached out to God as that pillar for safety and comfort and connection to my Willa, I think that is where I found the most peace. And because my feelings toward that loss were the most raw in that moment, and during that year of my life, I found myself diving into my faith more for comfort. And now that I am further removed, yet doesn't mean it doesn't affect me any less. I don't find myself in those really raw moments of grief as I did when it first happened. And during those raw moments of grief is when I looked for God. And I think that is why I don't have that same relationship that I did at that point.
Yes.
But especially now during the season, which is particularly hard for me, this is the time when it happened. I think having God as that person I can go back to, I think is so important. And again, like I said, validating the wholeness of that journey, how I felt like I had lost God right when it happened. I felt so alone and felt so betrayed. And then telling myself that all these things happen for a reason. I've had many things happen in my life where in the moment I'm angry, but now looking back, I have learned so much. Do I wish it happened? No, I don't wish it upon anyone. But this is reality. Things aren't all sunshine and rainbows, and that's okay. So God had this happen to me for a reason so that I can sit in a space more mature and older now and talk to you guys about this experience and share my journey. And I think a journey that is going on forever and completely being built on forever, that is what I think is so beautiful about faith, and what we really need to talk about is how you can lose God, you can find God. I can feel less connected to God now because I feel as though I don't have the time. That doesn't mean that he's not there. That doesn't make me a bad Christian. Yeah. And I think that's something that teenagers need to know.
Yeah.
When I was like really, really little, I struggled with the fear of death and the afterlife. Like I couldn't sleep, and it was really bad. And it's still like I still have a really strong fear because I do believe in the afterlife. I know some people don't, or some people have other views of what it is after you die. And it's been like really hard to like grasp the idea of dying because like no one wants to think about it or talk about it a lot. When I lost people that I've like been close to, like I've always had that what if you're not with God, and like that like that voice is always lingering in my head, like what if, and I have to say, Nyla, stop, like they're with God, and like just talking to them, like talking to God but also talking to them is helpful, and like helps you to like try to process that first I couldn't process. And like even though I still have that fear of like afterlife, and I have a very like panic attacks or whatever about like being scared about like the what ifs, or like what if this happens, or where are they now, like just trying to stop and like take a deep breath and be like, it's okay, like they're with God, like you know who they are as a person and you know how great they were. Having doubt is always going to be there, but you can't let that take over your whole entire life and let that take over your whole entire perception of them, because that's not who they were.
And that's what they wouldn't want that.
Exactly. So just trying to talk to them, like saying, how are you? Like just talking to them normally, talking to God, like I hope they're up there with you, like having a feast. And it just helps you to kind of like be more comforted even in that time of doubt.
I think another thing is signs, and I love thinking about this, and I think that this is a big connection to spirituality as a broader topic. As Nyla was saying, talking to specific people. I mean, we do this with praying to certain saints and things like that, but I wholly believe in communicating with those that you've lost, and I do this all the time. And I think signs from God, as I had said before, finding God in certain moments of your life, but also finding them. I see my abuela everywhere, and that's what helps me to see her presence in so many aspects of my life, because as I get older, reaching all these milestones, I mean, graduating 8th grade was hard enough without her, and now graduating high school, going into a college that I've dreamed of going my whole life, and not having her is so hard. But reading into those signs is so important. I mean, that's why I love red cardinals. Even just seeing like the color yellow, like she would always sing that mellow yellow, whatever that song was, she would sing that. And so just these little symbols and signs, I love them. That's what keeps me going. And being able to see her in different parts of my life, that's what helps me the most.
Thank you guys both for sharing first. And I think that that really is what keeps you going, is the signs and the little things. And I say this a lot with like happiness, as people trying to obtain as one big broad idea, when in reality it's just living your life. And I think that is really how we remember our loved ones, is not about their absence, but their presence in the things that you see in your everyday life. Yeah, after losing close friends and family, it definitely has gotten a lot harder to find that light in different places, and especially struggling with mental illness and losing myself along the way and finding myself again, grieving, and then trying to pick myself back up. And then it is very an up and down thing, life and faith, because life is up and down. So of course faith would be up and down. It's not one stagnant period of happiness and awesomeness. Little things, the little signs really get us through it, and the hope. And I think it's more than hope. I think it's coming to terms with it. It's coming to your own place and realizing like you have to accept what you can't change. And that would look like faith and living your everyday life, because that's how they would want you to live your everyday life to the fullest. And again, that's where faith comes in, and or spirituality, taking a deep breath or journaling like that. Just talking out loud and journaling, probably my favorite things ever. It is such a good outlet, and especially journaling, because journaling and writing exercises a different part of your mind that like speaking does. You have to kind of it's more precise, and I just think it's really, really important. And with grief, then after, like, I feel like people find community in grief, and that was probably what got me out of the lowest, darkest points of grieving, was the community that came thereafter, and the love that everyone can share, especially in our Sacred Heart community. Like, we just are fortunate to be in such a loving environment, and accepting.
Yep, 100% agree too. Like, when I also like lost someone, like my pastor reached out, and like she lost her brother due to the same reason. And a lot of certain religions like think this one thing is like a sin if you do this, if you die by this. If you die by this action, then it's like you're not going to go to heaven. And she like kind of talked to us about it and like explained her experience with that, but also that that's not what God would think. Like, that's not how that works, and that's not...
God doesn't pick and choose.
Yeah. Right. Like, but she helped us to come to terms with it, and to pray about it, and to just think like it's going to be okay, and they're okay.
I really truly think, again, about Stuart, for us growing up as Stuart girls, has influenced our view of faith on the world in ways that other people can't, I don't think, can grasp. We have an openness that teens like us, they don't have this. They don't take religion courses for every religion. They don't have world religion. They don't have women in faith. They don't have ethics. Like, they don't have all these courses. And again, I'm not religious, but I think it's so interesting learning about all the different parts of religion and what they entail, and how it's a one common ground of love, community, hope, and that's the root of faith. And Sacred Heart students, we really embody that. And I feel like I'm talking to two people who truly, truly embody the meaning of spirituality and what that would look like to live it to the fullest. And yeah.
And I think with that, perspective is a word I come back to over and over and over again. Perspective, I think, is the most valuable thing that we can gain in life. And I think at Stuart, we work to do that through service, especially with learning outside of the classroom, with the learning we do inside of the classroom, as you mentioned, world religions, just gaining perspective on different people of different ages, of different backgrounds, of different cultures, of different religions, and spirituality and beliefs is so important to understanding people and building empathy.
Yeah.
Everything stems from perspective. Yeah. And God is love. It hurts my heart when people preach God is love and then do so many things that contradict that statement.
Or use God as an excuse for the things that they do. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
In a world that is so full of hate, it's difficult. It's difficult to find that love and to understand how God shows up in our lives. And as teenagers, that's hard because we're at an age, this is the first kind of period in our life where we are truly understanding what is happening in the world. When I was little and hard things happened to me in my life, I didn't have the concept of going to God. I didn't really have the concept of things will happen for a reason. And I didn't fully even have a concept of what was difficult things I was going through was different from what other people were experiencing. That was just my world then. And sure, sometimes it would make me sad, sometimes whatever, it was hard, but I didn't have the capacity to understand that at that age. And as a teenager, this is the first time you kind of have that mature mindset to fully understand.
Yeah.
And that's where journey in faith in self-discovery comes in. That's why it is so vital to our experience as teenagers and why conversations like this are so important. But to find that and to love, it really isn't that hard.
Yeah.
It really
Oh my gosh,
isn't.
it's really not
And-
hard. Love as you love, like,
Right.
come on.
Study and learn. Like how those are me. And all just I think the news is a big thing in social media. There's so much hate spread. And that is the world that teenagers know.
Yeah.
And that is sad.
Yeah.
That is so sad.
It's really bad.
Because there is so much love in this world. That doesn't mean that gets rid of the terrible things that are happening. That doesn't mean we stop paying attention to it.
But I could say right now,
Balance.
there's more love than hate in the world, and it's so
Right.
sad that we're shown the more hateful side than the loving side. Because like humans, we're all like that's something we all have. We're all people.
Right.
Like we're all people. And again, going back to what you said about perspective, like perspective. Alex and I went on Appalachia Service Project, which was in West Virginia, and we helped homeowners
Rebuild homes.
like for heating, cooling, help restore roofs or build ramps for people. And it was my first time going, and Alex, you've been on it multiple times.
That was my second time.
Life-changing, like just truly life-changing. And there's things that you could do in a more micro sense, like than something that drastic, but it changed my life. It gave me a new perspective on everything around me, and it was a faith-driven retreat. And even though, again, I'm not Catholic or Christian, I loved it. It was just a life-changing experience, and connecting with my homeowner who wasn't religious, but she was spiritual too. Connecting with her was such a blessing. And she would talk to me about life and being an adult, and I would talk to her about college. And I mean, that's where you get your experiences. And we also do loaves and fishes and things like that. But again, that can look like talking to a stranger as you walk by them, like smiling, giving a wave, or just asking a person at the cash register, how was your day? Or your mom, how was your day? Like, it can just transfer into so many different ways. And I think that is the most beautiful part about faith and spirituality, is that it could be so big and it could be so little. Like,
It is versatile.
it is so versatile. Like, there is really every single way to love. And that's, again, what you said. It's loving is easy. Loving is so easy. Yeah.
It's possible for everybody. I'm very grateful that we grew up in this environment, because Stuart has definitely like shaped us to be these loving people and to see the good in a lot of people. And yeah, growing up here, I think if I didn't grow up here, I wouldn't like be the same person I am today.
100%.
Like, from what I've like heard or experienced from other teenagers my age that grew up in a different school or different area, that's just not the same. The values that they teach us here are really, really great values to have in in life, like in the world around us.
We're aware that we're privileged
We
to
have
have
a lot of blessings here, and everybody's so nice and kind, and I'm really, really grateful to have experienced this, because I think experiencing other things definitely would not create the person I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, service, as Riley was talking about, service is so big here. And especially growing up here, as we've said, has been so instilled in my being and my desires to act, to do, to help. And that was a big part of what I look for my future and for now. And I think in high school I've been able to embody that a lot, is just fostering and fueling, nourishing this love for service. And it is so helpful. You see so many alums still either working in nonprofits,
Yes.
working with nonprofits, still just doing weekend service
We've been doing
projects.
service work since we were 5.
Yes. It's so important. And I think whether you are practicing a faith or not, it feeds your soul in every way, whether that is feeding your soul in a way that is spiritual, or feeding your relationship with God, or if that is just feeding yourself. It helps you in every way, because again, you're gaining that perspective, and any experience where you can view something greater than yourself, where you can remove your reality away from just you and think about other people, will change everything. It will change your life in the way that you think, the way that you engage with others. So that's a big part, especially in my faith.
This was just something that I read that I wanted to share, and I just think it's a nice message. When there are holes, light replaces it. And I just really, really like that, because it can apply to so many different things.
And for us, God is that light, and maybe that's not what it is for you, but I think if we can gather one thing is that spirituality can apply to all, and that is something that teenagers need to explore. And especially at Stuart, we've been getting more into mindfulness and meditative experiences. And we've mentioned breathing through this. Breathing has gotten me through high school.
Yeah.
If I can say one
Love
thing.
me a good deep breath.
We love a good crisp,
How about we
deep
do that?
breath.
Hold on, everyone.
Everybody listening, let's
Let's
breathe.
take a deep breath. Okay, ready? And I bet you haven't taken a deep breath all day today.
Right. And didn't that feel so good?
And I know you did not do that. So, on that note, Nyla and Alex, thank you so much for joining me on Tartan Talk. You guys were absolutely wonderful, and I can't wait to see the
Thanks
rest
for
of what
having
you guys
us.
do.
This
You
was
be
amazing.
that light. You be the light.
Be the
that
light.
Yes.
We are
Be
that
the
light.
light.
You are the
We
light.
are that light.
Everyone is that light.
Be the
Thank
light.
you for listening.